Hello, my name is Michael Brennan, and I am here to announce that I am a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the 1st Congressional District in Congress. I am making this announcement through this video in order to give you a little better understanding of who I am and why I'm running. But before we get into the details, I want you to understand a little bit more about me, my values, and why I will be the best Democrat for the 1st Congressional District. Former U.S. Senator Paul Wellstone believed that politics was not about being left, right, or center, but it was about doing right by people. I also believe that. I am running for Congress because I think the future of this country depends on Washington once again doing right by people. During this campaign, I intend to talk about a number of different issues. Several of them are familiar to you: healthcare, education, and global warming. But I also want to talk about issues that aren't so familiar: substance abuse, mental health, child welfare, and a worker's right to organize. Equally important, I want you to understand that I will always say what I believe in, and I will always stand up for our principles. I first came involved in politics in 1970 during the first Earth Day. I realized then that it was possible for me to make a difference. I also realized that my values and roots run very deep. My grandmother came to Portland from a small town in Western Ireland called Inishne. She was 14 years old and had a 6th grade education. Unfortunately, my grandfather died, leaving her to raise 4 children. The only work that she could find was cleaning houses. My father grew up in this apartment on Munjoy Hill. He graduated from Cheverus High School and Maine Maritime Academy. My mother grew up a few blocks away. They were childhood sweethearts and dated for 8 years before getting married. I was born in Mercy Hospital here in Portland. I had 3 sisters and 1 brother. I attended Catholic school for 8 years, where I was both an altar boy and a member of the choir. For 4 years, I attended a public high school, and my primary goal at that time was to win a football scholarship to Notre Dame. Unfortunately, my dreams were bigger than my athletic abilities, and instead I attended Florida State University, partially with the help of $1,000 from my parents, a government loan. I worked 40 hours a week, and I had a summer job as a union laborer. In 1972, I received my lottery draft number. It was 128. While I was in college, I became very involved in the effort to end the war in Vietnam. Upon returning to Portland, I became involved in a number of different efforts to bring about social change and equality. I met Joan in 1977, and we were married 3 years later. I continued to work on a number of different issues at that time, including the Campaign for Safe Energy and the Equal Justice Foundation. Travis was born in 1981, and Ryan followed 3 years later. By then, I was working for Coastal Economic Development Corporation in Bath, and several years later, I went to work for the United Way of Greater Portland as a Director of Community Initiatives. In 1992, I was elected to the Maine House of Representatives. While in the House, I continued my work in Health and Human Services and in education. In 1999, in my last term in the House, I was chair of the Education Committee. In 2002, I was elected in a special election to the state Senate. That election allowed the Democrats to have a majority in the state Senate. During my first 2 years in the Senate, I was chair of the Joint Select Committee on Healthcare Reform that enacted the most far-reaching and comprehensive healthcare reform legislation in the country. In 2004, I was elected by my peers to be the Senate Majority Leader. I continued to work on issues related to health care, education, and economic development. I also worked with other legislators to establish a coalition called Legislators for Ending the War, which was the first group in the country to publicly call for an end to the war in Iraq. In 2006, our family had the opportunity to travel to Ireland and visit the site where my grandmother was born and grew up on Inishne. If only she knew what that plot of land would be worth today. Joan and I bought this house in 1980. This is the house that Travis and Ryan grew up in. We always wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to go to college. But when the time came for them to go to college, the cost of tuition had risen so much that we had to take out a new mortgage on this house. One of the greatest challenges that we face in Maine and in this country is making sure that we have high quality, affordable education for all children. We know that the future success of our children is based on education. We know the future of our economy is based on education. And most importantly, we know that the future of democracy is based on having a good education system.
Every person should have access to health care. Yet every half hour someone in this country dies because they do not have health insurance. That is why, as a state senator, I work to establish Derigo Health, the nation's first comprehensive health care plan. Now we need Washington to lead the way and provide universal health coverage for all Americans. This is one of my top priorities. The time for talk on global warming is over. We need people in Congress who have a record of standing up for the environment and are willing to say no to the powers that stand in the way of developing renewable energy. We must make our economy green and less dependent upon fossilized ideas and fossilized fuel. The next generation cannot afford further inaction.
The greatest challenge facing our country is bringing an end to the war in Iraq. This mistake has been costly, both in terms of lost human life and has also compromised our moral authority in the world. It has also prevented us from making progress in reforming our healthcare system and providing more educational opportunities and addressing global warming. Congress must end this war because the President will not. If this commitment to standing up for what you believe in is what you want in a Democrat and what you want in Congress, please join me in this campaign. Thank you for watching this video, and I look forward to meeting you in the coming months.